What up, tribe? It's your girl Raji, and I am here to tap in for Tribe Talk, Lilith's Interlude. Today, we are going to be tapping into chapter 4, I believe it was. Oh, my iPad. Y'all know I still stay dead. But, yeah, we were into chapter 4. Chapter 4 was quite interesting. And I do have some areas that I want to touch on with the tribe that I felt like you guys might like or relate to. It was a quick read. It was very much to the point. And it was excuse me. It was useful. So let me open it up. I hope you guys have been well since the last time we talked. Hold up. Oh, I was in a new chapter. I was like, what's going on? So this chapter 4, y'all, is called Monoway. And Monoway is about this story. Well, before I get it, it's called The Hymn for the Wild Man, Monoway. And chapter 4 is the mate union with the other. Now, she first starts to discuss and she says, if women want men to know them, really know them, they have to teach them some of the deep knowing. Some women say they are tired, that they already have done too much in this area. I humbly suggest they have been trying to teach a man who does not care to learn. Some men want to know. Some men want to learn. When men show that willingness, then is the time to reveal things. Not just because, but because another soul has asked. You will see. So here are some of the things which will make it much easier for a man to understand, for him to meet a woman halfway. Here's a language, our language. So this is a very interesting story, or this short story, because at first I thought like she was talking about like a dog. Every story I have to kind of step back and be like, okay, wait a minute, this is a metaphor for something. And she goes in like later on to explain it, but as you're reading it for your own, understanding or overstanding rather, that should be off, because it be really like little village tales, little kid stories, things you probably can't even think about when you see like Once Upon a Time. I've been talking to you guys heavily about that, so a lot of that's going to be integrated into this conversation, because the download that I got was what's in a name, like what's in a name, and I mean like breaking that shit so far down till you can almost tell me the original pantheon that you may or may not be associated with based on your calling card. So, that was and your calling card being your name. Obviously, that you were given any nicknames, like name decoding. Breaking down, find the source. It was such an interesting journey. So yeah, I was getting a lot of downloads for that, y'all. And lo and behold, the Monoway, after the story, right, goes into the process of what's in the name. But before we get to that, so I'll tell you guys the story. Okay, so the Monoway. So there's this man who goes to court two sisters, and they're twins. Now, their father said, you may have them in marriage or until you can guess their names. Monoway guessed and guessed, but he could not guess the names of the sisters. The young woman's father shook his head and sent Monoway away time after time. One day, Monoway took his little dog with him on a guessing visit, and the dog saw the one sister was prettier than the other, and the other sister was sweeter than the other. Though neither sister possessed all virtues, the little dog liked them very much, for they gave him treats and smiled into his eyes. So each day, this guy, Monoway, he goes to try to guess the name of the young woman. Every time he goes, in the dog form, because let me say he goes himself with the dog, fails. Then he goes and only sends the dog, which is a metaphor of like the masculine instinct and the masculine like desire, you know. So each time the dog got like distracted along the way, and when the dog got distracted along the way, what was it? He would like stop and get little treats and stuff, and he would forget the girls' names. So eventually he got so determined. The story goes on to tell you, eventually he got so determined that he went back to the master. He fought against the darkness. He had a little attack. He had to have a little fight. So then he came out. He came out a winner and learned the people's names. I'm talking about the people's. The goddesses, the women's names. And the man was able to marry. So in the story, it makes it seem like Monoway taking home 2 wives. But in reality, she turns it into this thing where it's like, okay, maybe it's the duality of the woman. Maybe the man doesn't really want like 2 physical women. It's really understanding the darkness and the lightness of that person. And the man also has that within the dog. The little dog is a metaphor of the male psyche. So the story unravels in an old secret about women, and it is this: to win the wildish woman's heart. A mate will understand her natural duality through and through. Although we could understand the women in the tale ethnologically, as brides to be in a polygamous culture from an archetypal, I'm having a moment, y'all, with the book. From an archetypal perspective, this story speaks about the mystery of 2 powerful feminine forces within a single woman. So, yeah, that's basically what I said. He cannot win unless he solves the mystery, and he must use his own instinctual self, as symbolized by the dog, to accomplish it. Anyone close to a woman is, in fact, in the presence of 2 women, an outer being and an interior creatura, one who lives in the topside world and one who lives in not so easily seeable world. She didn't say that, but who lives in the world not so easily seeable. Maybe I didn't spread that out, like, because she was going. The outer being lives by the light of day and is easily observed. She is often pragmatic, acculturated, and very human. The creatura, however, often travels to the surface from far away. Often appearing and then quickly disappearing, yet always leaving behind a feeling, something surprising, original, and knowing. So you leave your energetic footprint, your energetic signature, basically. While each side of a woman's nature represents a separate entity with different functions and discriminate knowledge, they must, like the brain with its corpus callosum, have a knowing or a translation of one another, and therefore function as a whole. If a woman hides one side or favors one side too much, she lives a very lopsided life, which does not give her access to her entire power. This is not good. It is necessary to develop both sides. In various African and Carib communities, the symbol of twin sisters is said to possess juju, the mystical energy of the soul. Must be 2 sides. Quintistus. I'm going to say quintistus. Quintistas, yes. Recognize such person as having touched by the gods. In our tradition, we call such a man El Vuelto. El Vuelto, the bundle for souls such as he carry a certain kind of wear and show it to anyone who will look. Anyone who has the eyes to see it and the sense to shelter. So it's like, yo, people have a divine spirit on them, and you can tell these people got it on them. You know what I'm saying? By certain characteristics, the way they move. Because it's not like wear as in wear and tear. It's wear as in WARE. So this particular kindly El Vuelto gave me this story. El Vuelto. It is about a certain kind of ancestral transmission. He called the story One Stick, Two Stick. This is the way of the old African kings, he whispered. Okay, so this is the one where this old man, he's passing away, and he calls his relatives in to take this stick, like the guiding stick. So they all got one, and they broke their sticks in the two, and they tried to put the two together. So this is the way of them saying, like, you got to have community, you got to have tribe, you got to have network, 1133. You got to have some sort of trifecta. Likewise, when both sides of the dual nature are held close together in consciousness, they have tremendous power and cannot be broken. This is the nature of the psychic duality of twinning, the two aspects of women's personality. By itself, the more civilized self is fine, but somehow lonely. By itself, the wilder self is also fine, but wistful for a relationship with the other. The loss of women's psychological, emotional, and spiritual powers come from separating these two natures from one another and pretending one or the other no longer exists. This tale can be viewed as being masculine duality as well as feminine duality. Okay? So, y'all know we both, like, have two sides. You've sometimes heard it called yin and yang. Masculine and feminine energy is how I put it in most of my readings. So, if you got the duality, you got certain instincts. So that's why when y'all see me read, I read like energy-wise, because certain times we as feminines need to balance out our masculines, and some, like, the masculines need to balance out their feminine energy. I think I speak to the more, like, feminine side of the tribe and the collective, but I do have a significant amount of male listeners, so this could be helpful. As in other fairy tales, masculine forces can carry bluebird-like or murderous Mr. Fox sort of energy, and thereby attempt to demolish the dual nature of women. That sort of suitor cannot tolerate duality and is looking for perfection, for the one truth, the one immovable, unchangeable, feminina substantia, feminine substance embodied in the one perfect woman, I. If you meet this kind of lover, both within and without, if you meet this kind of man, run away. If you meet this kind of woman, run away, okay? It is better to have a mono-way type lover, both within and without. He is a much better suitor, for he is intensely devoted to the idea of the two, and the power of the two is in acting as one integral entity. Mono-way, whether as an internal or external figure, represents a fresh but faith-filled lover, whose central desire is to name and understand the mysterious, numinous, double in women's nature. Okay, so y'all got that. Now, going further, we talk about the power of the name. So this is going to end up being also tap into the decode energy. So naming a force, creature, person, or thing has several connotations. In cultures where names are chosen carefully for their magical or auspicious meanings, to know a person's true name means to know the life path and the soul attributes of that person. And the reason of the true name is often kept secret is to protect the owner of the name so that he or she might grow into the power of the name to shelter it. So to shelter it so that no one will either denigrate or distract from it, and so that one's spiritual authority can develop it to its full proportions. In fairy tales and folk tales, there are several additional aspects to the name, and these are at work in the tale of Monoway. Although there are some tales wherein the protagonist searches for the name of the malevolent force in order to have power over it, more so the questing after the name is in order to be able to summon the force of that person, to call that person close to oneself, and to have a relationship with that person. He is interested. So the Monoway wants to draw these feminine energies, the power of the two, close to him, right? And he's interested in naming them, not in order to seize their power, but instead to gain self-power equal to theirs. To know the names means to gain and retain consciousness about the dual nature, which as one may, and even with the use of one's might, one cannot have a relationship of depth without knowing the names. If we are interested to find the names, then we are already on the right path. So this could apply to you breaking down, like I said, your legal name, what the name that was given to you, your nickname, spiritual name, anything that you may have been called in childhood. Just kind of look back and see like what the name is for you and what it means. Life path. Some of it even goes down to like touch so close as to touch on your life path number, numerology. So if you're into numerology, breaking numbers down, you can tap into that too. And so most of the time, if not often, it checks out. Like putting those two things together, numbers, then like seeing what that number means energetically, how people would describe somebody with that personality. And usually it's pretty spot on, give or take. So, what is it? So this man wants to know both parts of you, your spirit as well as your physical, or vice versa. Women might want to know about a man, etc. The point is, even in your own self journey, you should also be balancing out these natures, though, your feminine and your masculine. Everybody. So, where was I? Okay, but close observation of the dual nature, asking after it, and hearing its answers will soon reveal a pattern to it all. A pattern that is vast, it is true, but that has stability like waves, ebbing and flowing. Its high and low tides are predictable. Its deeper currents are mappable. In the matter of guessing the names, to say a person's name is to make a wish or blessing over them each time their name is called. We name these dual temperaments in ourselves in order to marry ego to spirit. The naming and marrying is called, in human words, self-love. When it occurs between two individual persons, it's called loving another. Digest that. The dog, as representative of the intuitive, acts in Monoway's service. Women often crave a mate who has this kind of endurance and the wit to continue trying to understand her deep nature. Like want to figure you out, but for like the right reasons, not to like play you. In the tale, the twins' father acts as the guardian of the mystical pair. He is symbolic of the actual intra-psychic feature which ensures the integrity of things staying together and not being split apart. It is he who tests the worthiness, the rightness of the suitor. It is good for women to have such a watcher. Okay? So, if you consider that watcher in its physical sense, right, you might only consider that watcher in the embodiment of like what's physically there. But there is a spirit that someone carries, a spirit. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's that of a guide, and sometimes it's that of other things, and the unmentionables, right? So you have to be mindful and then mindful of how you balance those energies out. But yeah, within yourself, that's interesting. But I feel like a lot of us can relate. So the father of the two sisters says, wait until you convince me you are interested in really knowing about the true essence, the true names. You may not have my daughters. The father is saying, you can't have understanding of women's mysteries just for the asking. You must do the work first. You must endure in pursuing this matter. You must divine yourself even closer to the real truth of the feminine soul puzzle. This endeavor, which is both descent and riddle. In the world of archetypes, the dog nature is both psychopomp, messenger between the topside world and the dark lit world, and the chitothic. Oh, that's chitonic. That's a doozy, y'all. I'm so country. CHTHONIC. Sound it out, because it's kind of athotic, enchanthic. I don't know, enchanthic. That of the darker, of farther back regions of the psyche, that which has been called the underworld for eons. It is this sensibility that a mate reaches into in order to understand duality. Truth. The dog is similar to the wolf, only a little more civilized, although as we see in the rest of the story, not by much. This dog, as a psychopomp, represents the instinctive psyche. It hears and sees differently than a human. It travels to the levels of ego would never think of by itself. It hears words and instructions that the ego cannot hear, and it follows what it hears. Yeah. Now, creeping seductive appetite. It is not by accident that men and women struggle to find deeper sides of their natures and yet become distracted for any number of reasons, mostly pleasures of various sorts. Some become addicted to those pleasures and stay forever entangled there and never continue with their work. The little dog is also at first distracted by his appetites. Appetites often are charming, like little forajidos, robbers, dedicated to the theft of time and libido. Yours. Jung remarked that some control must be placed on human appetite. Otherwise, as you can see, one will stop for every bone huck in the road, every pie on a log. Mates who seek to name the dualities may, like the dog, lose their resolve as they are tempered off the path. This may especially occur if they are feral or starved creatures themselves, so they may lose their memory of what they were about. They may be tempted, attacked by something from their own unconscious, which wishes to force itself upon women for exploitative gain, or wishes to entice women for its own pleasure, or in an effort to banish a hunter's emptiness. Well, I became distracted from my deep work because I became, this is what she's saying, the dog is within the masculine, and the dog is saying, hold on, because I want to forget it, I'll just read it out. Well, I became distracted from my deep work because I became hot sexually and it took 7 days to quench the blaze. Or because I decided this week was just the right time to give all my 500 houseplants a haircut. She's speaking about how you can move in extremes. And sometimes you can't do that. Overdo it, This is your deep psychic work. This is you reprogramming the way you, process work. No. You don't want to let your lust, your vices be all over you, basically. Don't let vices overtake you, because they'll distract you from your one true, which is going to be some sort of plug connection. But I feel like that's all, you have. What people don't realize about twins, soulmates, you have more than one, and you have them in varying arenas. So because I begin, so Oh, then she goes on to talk about, oh, you know how creatives will pick up something and we'll put it down. Don't like finish a project, the ebbs and the flows. I don't know. So let me read this to y'all so y'all can get what I'm saying. Okay, so she says, because I began 7 new creative ventures, I had a great time at it and then decided that none of them truly showed real promise and dropped them all. So you see, the bone on the road is waiting for all of us. It has the luscious stink only a dog can hardly refuse. At worst, it is likely a favorite addiction, one which already has cost us. But even if we fail time and time again, we must try till we pass it by and get on with the primary work. If the tension is interrupted, one has to start nearly from scratch. So it's like taking your sexual energy and building it into a momentum, like working with that archetypical way of yourself, archetypal way to create, instead of like putting into like certain other vices. I don't know if that makes sense, but it sounds like it makes sense how I broke it down. So she talks about how if you stop, you got to kind of start back over because you built up some sort of plateau. And she talks about how life is in the road to deciding to let go of certain things or bypass them for something else. It's similar to life. She says they can cause us to be carried off into amnesia, to not only forget where we are in the work, but to forget what the work was to begin with. The Quran wisely advises that we will be called upon to account for all the permitted pleasures in life we did not enjoy while on The Quran wisely advises that we will be called upon to account for all the permitted pleasures in life that we did not enjoy while on earth. However, too much or even a little bit of a good thing at the wrong time can cause gross loss of consciousness. Yeah, like I always say, too much of anything is not good. You feel me? Then instead of a sudden rush of wisdom, we walk about like an absent-minded professor muttering, now where was I? It takes weeks, sometimes months, to recover from these distractions of ours. Another aspect of appetite has assaulted the creature and again drawing him from his task. And although his good is satisfied, the soul's work is not. We begin to understand that this process of remaining conscious, and particularly of not giving in to distracting appetites while trying to elicit psychic connection, is a long process and one that is difficult to hold on to. We will see the wily little dog trying his damnedest, yet it is along the way from deep archetypal unconscious back to the conscious mind. It is a long way down to the names and a long way back to the surface again. Holding knowledge in consciousness is hard when there are snares along the path. Yeah, so deep understanding, deep knowing, like getting past. And if you will notice, a lot of people like in the Bible are like renamed. They started off one name and then they may have had their dark night of the soul and then they changed their name. Truth. The elements are anti-conscious. They thrive by keeping things dark and exciting. Sometimes it is hard to remind ourselves that we are holding out for the excitement of light. Because of this naturally occurring opposer in the psyche of all persons, even the most healthy psyche is susceptible to losing its place. Remembering the real task and remembering ourselves over and over in practicality. Practically, what the fuck? I mean, we can just like it can get very run on center, and that should be becoming like a tongue twister. It's a tongue twister for me. I had to take a brief pause, you guys. Hold on. I'm gonna take a pause because hold on. We gonna have us a moment, cause what? Practically, do not play with me. I know how to read, but when they say, and I'm gonna keep it player, just in case y'all just joining this ride, when they say you got to really pay attention, I read her reviews before. They were like, it's a read, but it's worth it. Like, once you done, you gonna feel different. So I'm like, okay. And it goes along with this curriculum that I have for the Evolved Hustler sessions. So it's all in tandem. So I hope y'all got y'all book. But I had to take a moment after that, because that was quite the run-on sentence. Lord Jesus. Ooh. And you don't stop. Take a deep breath. Hold on. Okay. I'm looking, trying to figure out where I was. Like, did I skip pages or whatever? Okay. We'll know in a second, won't we? Because of this naturally occurring opposer in the psyche of all persons, even the most healthy psyche is susceptible to losing its place. Remembering the real task and reminding ourselves over and over is practically, okay, so here we are, practically mantra fashion. In practically mantra fashion will bring us back to consciousness. The little dog learns the names of women one more time and races back to his masters. He ignores the feast on the ground and the enticing smells from the bush. Here we see the consciousness of the psyche rising. The instinctive psyche has learned to curve itself, prioritize, and focus. It refuses to be diverted. It is now intent. So, yeah, everything, it is with intention. Y'all ever see I heard that song where Solange say that? Nothing without intention. The stranger can be personified by an actual person in the outer world or by a negative complex within. It does not matter which, for the devastating effect, it's the same. This time, the dog engages in unrestrained battle, whether male or female. This occurs in outer life when an incident, a slip of words, an odd thing of some sort, jumps out and tries to make us forget who we are. There is always something in the psyche that robs us of the names. There are many name robbers in the outer world also. Sometimes, the only way we learn to hold on to our deeper knowing is because a stranger jumps out. Then we are forced to fight for what we find dear. Fight to be serious about what we are. Fight to develop past our superficial spiritual motives, which Robert Bly calls the desire to feel groovy. Fight to hold on to the deeper knowledge. Fight to finish what we have begun. Ooh, okay. Well, the little dog fights to keep the names and thusly conquers the repetitive slide into the unconsciousness. Once the battle is fought, amazingly, the dog has not lost the names, for that is what they were fighting over. Knowledge about the wild feminine. Whoever possesses it has this power to the worthy man. Manawa. He has fought to keep this power from an aspect of ancient human nature. The giving of power into the right hands is as important as finding of the names. So names hold power. You get power from your names, power from what you call certain things. There's a power in keeping some of that private. There's this thing where they a little hoodoo culture tip, like naming your space and not telling anybody the name of this space, and then saying it's a verse out of Hebrews. I'm gonna post it. I got it in my notes. I'm gonna post it probably in Patreon for y'all. But you name your house and you say this particular psalm. And that's it. And whenever you say your prayers about that, you basically use that name. And so, but you never tell anybody that's what you're doing. But outwardly giving some spirit, some soul to your space, basically, right? I like that. and builds a relationship. I think most people, like spiritual people's homes, have a vibration, have the numbers on the house have a vibration. A calling card, the name of the streets have a calling card. Everything. That is ain't nothing without intention. Period. So, if a woman wants a mate who is responsible in these, she will reveal to him the secret of women's duality. The interior woman is what this section is called. She will tell him about the interior woman, that one who added to herself makes two. She does this by teaching her mate to ask her two deceptively simple questions that will cause her to feel seen, heard, and known. The first question is, what do you want? Almost everyone asks some version of this. This is just as a matter of course. But there is yet one more essential question, and that is, what does your deeper self desire? If one overlooks a woman's dual nature and takes a woman at face value, one is in for a big surprise. For when the woman's wildest nature rises from her depths and begins to assert itself, she often has interests, feelings, and ideas which are quite different from those she expressed before. As women, we learn to pole both sides of our nature, that of others as well. From the information we receive reciprocally from both sides, we can clearly determine what is valued most and how to respond accordingly. When a woman consults her own dual nature, she is in the process of looking, canvassing, taking sounds of material that is beyond consciousness and therefore often astonishing in content and process. Whoa! And most often very valuable. To love a woman, the mate must also love her untamed nature. If she takes a mate who cannot or will not love this other side, then she shall surely in some way be dismantled, to be left limped about unrepaired. So men as much as women must name their dual natures. The most valued lover, the most valuable parent, the most valued friend, the most valuable wilderman is the one who wishes to learn. Those who are not delighted by learning, those who cannot be enticed into new ideas or experiences, cannot develop past the road post they rest at now. If there is but one force which feeds the root of pain, it is the refusal to learn beyond this moment. Truth. Always a learner. Always forever a student. That's why I be like, drop some notes. If y'all know something, pass on the information. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about. For real. Getting the knowledge that you need. So, if you got a suggestion, tap in. Books, cards, I'm in for all that. Tribe. So, the good match is the man who keeps returning to try to understand, who does not let himself be deterred by the sideshows of the road. So the wildest task of the man is to find her true names, and not to misuse the knowledge to seize power over her, but rather to apprehend and comprehend the numinous substance from which she is made, to let it wash over him, amaze him, shock him, even spook him. While one side of the woman's dual nature might be called life, life's twin sister is a force called death, named death. The force called death is one of the two magnetic forks of the wild nature. If one learns to name the dualities, one will eventually bump right up against the bald skull of the death nature. They say only heroes can stand it. Certainly, the wildest man can stand it. Absolutely, the wildest woman can stand it. They are, in fact, wholly transformed by it. So now please meet Skeleton Woman. Period. That's the end of that chapter. So that was a fairly short chapter. It took me so long to get, to record this for y'all and get to that point because y'all do not understand. I had, got sent down this whole download about naming and decodes. Spirit sent me to Once Upon a Time. I've been tweeting about that. So, in terms of past life and, naming codes, I got to that point by breaking down my name, but by getting some sort of indication or sign that it was time for that to be done. And I mean, when I say blatant signs, I mean putting, a show in my face, someone tagging me. So you have to pay attention, and when your spirit tells you, gives you a little nudge, hey, go peek at that, you should most definitely go peek at that. and then start to break it down like it ain't never been broke down before. Now, I'm going to do a guide, like some sort of formula to like do this, because this is going to be, as you build your grimoires and you build your notes, this is going to be a lot of information. So I try to like make it some of it where you can print it off in PDF style or upload it to your own personal grimoire. So there are pages of the grimoire that y'all can download and use it for your personal. But it's going to be under the digital grimoire part. That's where this guide is going to be, because it is most definitely. I started writing that shit out. I was like, oh, this is a lot. But necessary. And if you do it, you will see where your name matches right into your personality. Your numerology matches right in. Like your imprint, your number, your everything goes right along with what it should circle back around to. Description, if you're in astrology and you're looking for like zodiac sign type stuff, like, okay, let's just say something significant in your chart is like fire, and you start seeing like elements of fire sign, or your actual zodiac sign, like spirit might send you the actual animal. You never know. Like and not necessarily, it might cross your path. You might start seeing it a lot on TV or in ads. You'll start seeing it. And even the more you talk about it, because our phones be listening to us, getting information for ads. But that's the part of dark marketing. I read a book on that. Now, I think that's one of the books I don't have on my main thing. I think it's on my Apple Books. But I'm going to try to find it and see if I can get a PDF version. But they made good points. Good points were made in that book. So, but yeah, y'all. That name thing threw me off, because I was like, damn, what's taking me so long? So remember, I was telling y'all the other day, Spirit would like take you through like a series of not only how to do hustle, but how to like chill and like hustle passively. And when I say that, I mean like you're a busybody, and you know that you need to be digesting information, but that's why you have to make it about things you like, or things like you find purpose for. Because that way, when you're digesting that information, you can do it in different forms, like music. You can see it in all places. That's where I was getting with that. But decoding, that shit took me down a rabbit hole so deep, bro. I ended all the way up in a series, like that Once Upon a Time series. And I was guided. I watched season 7, and right now we're in the season 7 portal. We just passed it. So I knew all these things were significant. So I was being stopped and guided to do these things while like clearing out my own stuff. So it was like interesting. So I got a whole bunch of notes. And I'm going to like put that into like some sort of neat system to where you can figure your information out and decode your name. I would suggest also decoding your nickname as well, because it's a reason why they was calling you that. Some sort of attribute, something they saw in you. You never know. And this is to my people who, like, I feel like a lot of us millennials, some of our folks, now they know. And if you part of that lucky tribe where your people know, cool. But there are a lot of us that either they don't know, they don't want to talk about it for whatever reason, and you trying to do something else. So now you got to kind of do your own bit of due diligence with the research. And I know people, because it's not going to be in a lot of ours, like, our face. That shit's not finna be right. It'll be there, but you'll be, like, hiding, almost like on some hiding in plain sight type shit. That's how I would say it. But yeah, I was sent a place, and it was very interesting. I was like, oh. And that's why I say, even in your rest or your enjoyment phase, you'll be sent certain signs. That's why you can't always lean so heavily into one way of doing things, one way of noticing things. You know, even in this in itself is a channel message, basically, almost like the download of that shit was crazy. It was something else I said I was going to touch on during this tribe talk, but I have forgotten. Maybe I have it in my notes. Maybe I don't. Who knows? Like I said, I try to keep tribe talk as informal as humanly possible. I feel like we need that in life. Like, let's create, but also let's have a moment where we just, like, talk. Because that shit can get so inauthentic after a certain period. Oh, I was telling y'all how I was reading this dark psychology book. Man, that shit, to a science, they have it. How the human psyche works to make you purchase certain things and do certain things. And now they collecting data as to build out. It's giving Tower of Babel, to be real. Very much giving Tower of Babel. I'm trying to figure out what notebook that shit is. It might not be meant for me to talk about this right now. Cause is it here? Here it is. So I'll just touch on it a little bit. Wow, this is interesting. So it's definitely gonna end up being the second part, but I told y'all I would come through. So here I go. So as I said, I was giving the download to like decode names at this point, nicknames, government names, and see where that lined up in terms of your master number, which they have calculators on the internet so you can see. And they'll tell you what it means. Sometimes I go looking in terms of like what it means in a different language, etc. What does it tell you? What are the characteristics? Somebody with this name is usually typically gonna do what? It's telling you. And this could have been who you were in a past life. Like your South Node energy building itself up. And like profession could even be a thing. Maybe like a spiritual assignment though, more so than anything. And then you have, like, I like to go, like I said, the roles, careers. It will definitely tell you. Last name, too, but definitely the first name and the nickname. I would go so far back as to, they'll give you, like, sometimes they'll tell you what things mean in different language, different places. What pantheon calls to you based on what you already know about yourself. What pantheon calls to you. And I mean that it's saying pantheon, whatever. Like, some people actually go get they test done, but a lot of people saying that's dangerous for them right now. They're not sure if they want to participate, and I'm kind of leery of it myself. So, but my people, they know, like they fairly sure. And I've looked up my name on the dolls roll, and that's another crazy thing. I talked about that in live, like the other night. So I think, shit, maybe the real true shit is it's time for people to figure out exactly who they are. Like, they are calling for us to, and that's to step in yourself, like, for not just the physical, but in frequency. Like, who were you so you can kind of start to walk like that? Dig into your natal chart. What planets are you ruled by? What those planets signify, who's walking with those planets, what guides and goddesses are walking with those planets that you have some of the most favor in from that pantheon. So, like they said, a good bit of deciding about your guides and what path you're going to take in this lifestyle heavily has to do with you being able to dissect like cultures. But we do start off with the family tree. If you've been listening to me for a little while, and I wonder, like, I've got to see what package that family tree is in. But we start off with the family tree. As you know, most indigenous cultures, they went after the maternal line, not the paternal. The maternal was the line. It was always considered what the child gonna be spiritually. Mm-hmm. So they pay attention to that. They go by that. However, to me, once you reach a certain like blueprint of this shit and you want to go further, I do think everybody should take a peek into the Egyptian pantheons and like how it all ties back to them. And that's been my like quip the whole time. The more research I do, the more I dig, the more I realize, yes, there are certain aspects of certain parts where, okay, yeah, you should only be doing this if you part of this culture. But there are also aspects that say, well, shit, if you dig back far enough, this person's name is really a manifestation of this. So the farther you go back, the real T is the Romans, the Greeks, and the Egyptians. That's like the real T. That's where you go, and that's where you find like more documentation, more literature. Like, but if you trace it and put it all together, like connect the dots, all that shit go right back. Everything relates to everything, and everything come from the Egyptians. So I get into my Egyptian bag once I discover my own ancestral lineage. You know, you might not go towards that way. And somebody was mentioning, like, people need to remember Egypt is still, like, African. So it's still, like, a respect that needs to fly there. Yeah. But it'll tell you what you was doing, what you was supposed to be doing. You can pull that shit back from a name decode. I was like, damn, seriously. And I know this to be, like, confirmation because when I did this for myself, I did a reading. And I said, oh, baby, it's time to get into the deep spirits now. Like I said, they're guiding me to talk more at night. Sometimes you have to listen to your body in a way of when it's time to create, it's telling you as well. Not just acclimating yourself to like a rigorous, true, like planetary schedule. But overstanding, like listening to your body when it tells you to do certain things. It's very essential right now. Like, now in the world is a time where we are having to, like, for lack of better words, walk around developing our instincts, figuring ourselves out. A lot of people don't want to lean too heavily into technology. A lot of people like really trying to get themselves in a space where they can be self-sufficient on their own. It's very much giving like modern day renaissance coming up out of depression, and people are having to recreate themselves for sure in a way that makes sense to them. You see a lot of change going on. Lots. So in that change, you don't have to change so much in terms of like who you are. You be following who you are innately, I guess is what I'm getting around to it. Like, pay attention. Like I said, it'll even go to like days of the week. You should be able to decode your name. Decode what these people been saying this whole time to you. And it will come out and tell you exactly who you are. That's crazy. But I would definitely recommend it. By all sense of the word, I would recommend it. The book was amazing. the decode is now going to be guide worthy. And yeah, that was a good read. I hope you guys liked it. Those are the parts that I picked out. Obviously, there are more portions of that chapter, but those are the parts that I was like, okay, this is significant. This might be important to know. So I thought I'd share again today during Trap Talk. Things ain't getting too crazy today. There were no groceries being ordered. Hella notifications. I keep saying I'm way more guided to the late nights. But I enjoyed you guys, and tap in to chapter 5 hopefully tomorrow. we'll see. And just turn your notifications on. It's the best advice I can give. Turn them notifications on so you know when I drop. But yes, you guys, I'll talk to you later. I love you, and thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to follow, like, share, and subscribe if the message resonates. Tell a friend to tell a friend. You never know who this might help. But I know y'all like, damn, she just gonna drop the decode bomb and dip. Yeah, I'm just gonna drop the decode bomb and dip. We'll chat more about that in Patreon. I'm gonna drop it just like that and walk off. Like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm telling you, Spirit is sending me some crazy ass downloads about that. So I know that was supposed to be said. I see the key is you're supposed to be dropping the signs and synchronicities that you experience. If you are a guide, if you're a guide, like, you know, like, you're paying attention. You're the eye, right? That third eye. And you should be putting shit out. Use your third eye. Put stuff out to the people who appeal to you. And this is me talking to my evolved hustlers, like my content creators, my fellow influencers. You have to get so deeply into your own psyche, into who you are, that you just innately start to produce content that is so natural. It's not forced. And you come to me and we put together some sort of like extreme plan about how we're going to make it all count in the sun, the moon, and the stars. So you don't fucking lose. You know, everybody deserves everybody has a cheat code. Every game has a cheat code. That's how I'm starting to look at this. But yeah, I feel like every game has a cheat code. And we are getting to an era of like our cultures where it's like, I think the deepest win you could ever make is doing some shit that comes natural. Your work, your purpose out here in the 3D. You know, you gotta be two people. Like, if that, like, story is any indication to you that, like, you have to develop both sides, your spiritual side and your physical side, so that both can balance, then you got to turn around and recognize the masculine and the feminine. But sometimes that's because a lot of us were different genders in past lives. Yep, you could have been a totally different gender in a past life. That shit crazy. So consider that. Consider that. But yes, you guys, that's all I got for now. I appreciate you guys for listening. I get on these things just to, like, dump. Kind of like that artist way dump. Like writing for 3 pages. Just be like, Dear Diary, let me tell y'all about my decodes and my, like, downloads from Spirit. I love it, though. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's right up my alley. Right up it. But yes, you guys, we will chat soon. Chapter 5. For sure. Link up, though. Tap in, y'all. Press that like button. Comment. Let me know what y'all think. Any experiences. I had somebody even put poetry under something. It was amazing. Do things, okay? I love you guys, and we'll chat later. Bye.